Are you starting your physics journey? These are some topics in maths that you should get familiar with. Word problems, simple equations, substitution in equations. Start with these subjects, otherwise you might struggle with physics. Let me give you an instance. Now look at this question. A crate is pulled on the floor by a force of 8 Newton. If a frictional force of 3 Newton opposes its motion, what is the resultant force acting on the crate? Now this is a word problem question, a give and take question. A question like, I have 10 balls. My friend takes 7 balls from me. How many balls do I have left? Of course, the answer is 3 balls. The same way here, frictional force is a force that opposes motion. That means it's taking away some force from this 8 Newton force. So this is like word problem. If I don't know how to interpret word problems, I might clearly struggle with this question, because I've interpreted it that friction opposes motion, and this is pulling. That means the resultant force is, you take away the frictional force from here without knowing word problems, you might find it difficult. So this is basically a take away question, just like in mathematics. So the resultant force will now be 8 Newton minus 3 Newton, which is 5 Newton. I don't even need a special tutor to teach me this thing. With my knowledge of word problems, I was able to solve it. Okay, let's go to another question. What force is required to give a crate of mass 10 kg an acceleration of 6 meters per second squared? Now let's apply those. I said the first thing you should apply is simple equations. So you now in mind now ask yourself, which equation relates force, mass, and acceleration? So you now think, so the equation that relates them is that force is simply the mass times the what? Acceleration. This is where simple equation comes in. The next topic I mentioned was substitution. Substitution. That means you replace the value of force. Okay, there is no value of force. So force is still F. The mass is 10 kg. So you substitution, like you replace it with 10. This is not the mass times, and the acceleration is what? 6. So this is basic substitution. So now the force will now be 10 times 6, which is what? 60 Newton. So can you seriously see that the 3 basic things I used here was what? Word problem. Read this thing and understand it thoroughly. First of all, the next one was simple equations. The next one was substitution. So if you are starting your journey in physics, do not joke with these 3 things. Most students I actually encounter struggling in physics don't really know these 3 topics. So I have to now go back to teach it. But if they are known it now, we cannot advance. There is no way you can advance without knowing these 3 mathematics topics. So make sure you take your maths seriously, especially at junior level. Thank you.